All right, what's up, everybody? What is up? Merry Christmas. We are here with some more NFL DFS picks and lineup advice, this time for the Christmas slate. Three games starting at 1, 4, and 8. The perfect kind of short slate. Welcome. I am Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, joined by Jack, the creator of the Occupy Fantasy lineup builder and the owner of DFS Magic. Jack, Merry Christmas, man. What's up?
Merry Christmas, Brian. I see you. You have the nice tree in the background for us there. My Christmas lights are in the other room, so I don't quite have that going. But happy to be here. We're degening, as you said. So are you like stealing away from family stuff right now to get into this, or?
Yeah, well, our parents are probably putting in their bets as we speak, so it's a nice little break for everyone away from the gifts and eating. So we are in different locations than normal. So again, if you guys have any issues with the audio, video, let us know in the chat. This will be a live Q&A, probably just until noon Eastern. Just wanted to get something quick out for you guys. We'll talk about some strategy and some picks, but mostly you that are watching will drive the show. No question is off limits. I guess that's a bad thing to say. There could be some off limit questions, but no NFL DFS questions are off limits. If you guys started off, throw it in the chat. What do you want to know about today's games? We will answer them. Watch, if you listen to us, we've developed a short slate strategy. Jack has crushed it many times. Jack, the last couple of slates have been pretty disappointing, both Showdown and short slate, but this one looks pretty interesting today.
Yeah, we had a couple slates where we thought low scoring, bad quarterbacks, and we see what happens yesterday. For example, last night here we actually have like real football players on all these teams, so it feels a little bit different. I think the biggest thing I noticed was just less of a need to force in like really trashy plays on this slate, and I think we'll get into some specifics. But there's some really nice value on this slate that is not super owned. Those are the kind of the things I think we're focusing on more so than the strict lineup construction that we typically, at least for me, that's kind of where I'm at with this one.
Yeah, so normally we discuss mega stacking, overstacking, but with so many good players on the slate, and generally when we're trying to play low-owned plays, they're legitimate garbage plays. But some of the low-owned plays on this slate are really nice to the point where you don't have to gain leverage by overstacking. You don't have to gain leverage by leaving a bunch of salary on the table. Really, and as we've talked about seemingly forever in these videos, 3 points of leverage, overstacking, leaving salary, playing low-owned plays. We talked about leaving salary on the Saturday 2-game slate. The 500K winner on DraftKings left $2,400 in salary. Jack, I don't think we need to be that aggressive at all. Like you said, I really do think the area that people should focus on today are playing multiple low-owned plays because they are so good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's going to be tough for lots of salary to win. Of course, we say that. So, some weird Tommy DeVito 4-man stack leaving 5K might win, but probably not. I think, there's just so many good players on the slate that it seems like some of the value is going to hit, and then studs will get in the optimal lineup. I'm with you. And by the way, I'm going to rely on you for the questions. I don't have the link up right now.
I got you. I'll run through them right now, and people are taking advantage of us asking them to ask the questions, and they've already unloaded. So let's get to them. Junior says, Merry Christmas. Isn't CMC the leverage point on the slate because of his price? You have to play him with a cheap wide receiver. He's saying basically you can fade him and play expensive wide receivers if you want to be different, I think. And this is one of the first things you and I looked at, Jack, is generally a CMC slate it's tough to get away from. We are still playing him heavily on this slate, but it is nice to have stud, actual good wide receivers who can match his production.
Yeah, I mean, normally I would agree with you. However, I'm just staring at my MME exposures. I got 50% McCaffrey, 50% AJ Brown. I'm a little under on some of these other expensive receivers, but not bad. I got 33 Kelsey. So like, this is a weird slate where the value is so good that you don't have to make that hard choice. You can actually just play those guys together, which is very unusual for a McCaffrey slate.
Absolutely. Let's just briefly, before we get to these next questions, again, we'll be here till noon Eastern, so keep the questions coming. Who are maybe one or two of your favorite values? The one that stood out to me, Jack, I know you like him as well, is Justice Hill for Baltimore. Keaton Mitchell unfortunately went down with that knee injury. So it's Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and Dusty Melvin Gordon in that backfield. However, in this likely game script, now obviously Baltimore could get out and control this game. It's always possible. But Justice Hill plays the 2-minute offense, the passing downs for the most part. He looks to have a great role in this game, and he's just $4,700 and under 10% owned.
Yeah, it's a fantastic one. You queued the other one as well. When the Jacobs news came out, which I think it's still not official, right? We just think he's probably out.
I think he's officially out now from what I just saw. So
Oh, okay. The inactives are probably out. Okay. So, one thing we might catch people sleeping here, it's Christmas. So either literally sleeping or just kind of not paying that much attention. But Zamir White is like the natural, oh, it's the next guy in the depth chart. But you pointed out Amir Abdullah already gets passing game work. They're probably going to be trailing. We have him at like 2% owned on both sites. So he may creep a little higher on DraftKings. That's another one that's an obvious value, especially on DraftKings where, he gets 5 catches, he might be optimal with if McCaffrey scores 50 points, right?
true. No, exactly. Exactly. All right, let's get to some of these other questions. JP says, is Pacheco and Rice together too chalky? I know we have Pacheco nearing 60%. Rice is up there as well. And then I think as a general question, Jack, you can definitely play those two together. It's really about the low owned guys you pair with them. No combo is too chalky when it's just a 2-man combo on a 2-game slate or 3-game slate.
Yeah, I think, when you watch our 2 game videos, we talk a lot about getting unique. 3 gamers, you don't have to worry about it as much. Like, you don't have to worry so much. Maybe if you play like the highest owned guy at every position and you have no
Right.
plays under 20% and you use all the salary and you have a 3x1, like, maybe you might be duplicated, but in general, as long as you're hitting like one guy under 20%, like that's good enough. Even if you have one dupe, it's not the end of the world. I do think Rice is an interesting one, especially so FanDuel. I feel like he's very overpriced. He's like as expensive as like Ayuk and Devontae Smith. Yeah, he's got a nice role, and like he's only 900 cheaper than AJ Brown, right? So I think DraftKings is maybe more of a I just ate it, but FanDuel I'm under on him. What are your thoughts on Rice today with the price point and the other guys at receiver?
Yeah, I think with so many great receivers on the slate, I mean, Rice still isn't in a 100% role, right? Obviously, he's going to have a little bit more today with Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney out, just not soaking up those extra snaps. But I agree. When he's priced the same or around those other guys, I think you have to play those other guys just as much. Now, we do have multiple questions for some reason about favorite Giants wide receiver. Now, Darius Slay is out, so that certainly helps our outside receivers a bit. Darius Slayton and Jalen Hyatt. But Jack looks like Wan'Dale Robinson will be the chalky value Giants wide receiver, and I think that's why a lot of people are asking so they can help fit in CMC by using him. Do you have any strong stances on the Giants wide receivers?
The initial one is just if you recall, it was Thanksgiving, right? When we had the Giants,
Yep.
we had
Yep.
no idea who was going to play. There was like 6 guys active. They were all running routes. We have certainty now. They're playing Slayton, Robinson, and Hyatt, right? So right off the bat, I don't think you can really go wrong playing any of them. They're all very cheap. They have a defined role. DraftKings, I would lean small field, like just play Robinson. Like he's the high floor guy. Don't lose to him. High risk though. I mean, Hyatt to me just stands out. His A dot is like 20 or 21,
Yep.
especially on FanDuel where like touchdowns matter more, right? And Slayton is fine. Like I used him. So I don't know. That's mine. You got any different take there?
No, I think that is spot on. That's the best way to approach it, depending on the contest that you're playing, how many lineups you're making, and the type of risk reward you need with that lineup spot. Top Miami says favorite quarterback to mega stack for DraftKings, the $3 20 max large field GPP.
Ooh, I did just throw some in that. It's a weird one to say I like mega stacking, but I'm gonna say Lamar just because the dudes are so cheap and they probably will struggle to run the ball. It's just the wide receivers are cheap. Likely's cheap. Justice Hill's cheap and catches passes. So I really like kind of like a 4x1 with McCaffrey, for example. So yeah,
This
it's
one of
it's
the
a
first
weird
ones
one to
I built
say.
it.
That's yeah, right. It was so easy to normally you can't do it with Lamar, but today you can. And we have an underperforming wide receiver, which I don't know if you guys played Calvin Ridley yesterday, but if you did, you may have still
Or
lost because
or
Amari
or George
Cooper.
Pickens on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, so play him and print money. Hopefully, we'll get more of that. You built that lineup
Yeah.
too, the 4x1.
Yeah, I built it, and typically as you build Lamar lineups, you're not looking to overstack with Lamar. But again, this new version of this offense, and again, everybody is so cheap. Likely, Odell, Zay, Justice, like whoever you want. The 4x1 makes too much sense. Brand in the chat, what's up? Brand says, I have a $20 ticket that he won last night. He's at a disadvantage either way. He understands that. But should he use that $20 ticket in Showdown or Classic? What do you think?
Oh man, I'd always go Showdown. Just
Yeah,
for
I
me,
think
I just always feel like I have more of a chance. I don't know. What do you think?
I think so. It's this smaller player pool. You have a better idea what the leverage is going to be. You only have to pick 6 spots. No, I think so. We know people build Showdown more poorly than probably Classic, I would say. So, yeah, I think Showdown, Brian. Let's see here. Desmond says, which high dollar player do you think will bust?
Oh, this is always a fun game to play on these short slates. I'm gonna say we're assuming high dollar and high owned. I'm just looking here. I'm gonna count Rice. I just the price is just crazy. Like the price ownership is just kind of crazy to me. Like I mean that's one if I had to bet on an under, I just would take it just from a. Well, let me take that back. If you mean bust as in like not in the optimal lineup, like I'd feel pretty strong saying that. Not that he's gonna score like 2 points or something, but that's probably the
Totally.
one that stands out to me. What do you got?
No, he's the one that was the first one I looked at as well, just because of the price versus talent and system around them. He stands out the most. So no, I agree with you for sure. A couple questions here that are related. Totally not the FBI. Eli, so totally not the FBI is asking, are you super stacking every game, or are you taking a stance on just one game? And then Eli says, who would you rather stack to get different in large field GPPs or Giants? And Jack, you and I were actually saying, despite the very clearly defined DeVito rule from a week ago, we talked about it on Saturday. This slate seems much more unlikely for an Aiden O'Connell or a Tommy DeVito to be the optimal quarterback. And I think even if you're building 150 lineups, I don't see a need. Now, again, last time we said this, they won. But I don't see a need to play O'Connell or DeVito here because they're not going to be the highest scoring player. Yes, on a 2-game slate, they can do it. 3-game, it is much more difficult with these quarterbacks. And there's enough value that you don't have to punt at quarterback.
Yeah, I didn't do it. I just played 25% of the top 4. I did in like single entry. I did use one of each of the cheap guys just to get something. But yeah, I think all 4 of those guys are in play. And like we said, there's just so much value in this slate that it just seems very unlikely at all bricks, and that you need a in-price quarterback. We hit the running back values. Why don't we touch on the receivers real quick, because there are a few. So we mentioned Hyatt, right? Sub 10%. Justin Watson should also see more targets, right? He typically gets some more down the field routes. He's 3,500 DraftKings, so near minimum price. 10% ownership, not bad. Any other low-owned receivers stick out to you?
I think the Chiefs receivers in general, right? Because with no Tony, no Sky Moore, it does open up more snaps. So Valdez Scantling, and then someone in the chat, Nimfufu says, any love for Richie James? I think there's a chance that James can take on that Tony role, the type of player he is and the type of routes that he runs. So I like Richie James a lot for large field GPPs. And again, not someone you have to go crazy with, but I think as you mentioned with the Giants receiver situation, we never had much clarity. We do have a lot more clarity now with the Chiefs with 2 guys being out.
Yep. That's another good one. And Richie James is a previous Showdown hero, if I remember correctly. He won some people a lot of money, so he can do it. Tight end, I think I mostly just ate the tight. Austin Hooper. Let's just talk about it because it's literally stone minimum price. 20% ownership. Is that someone you're just eating somewhere or taking a stand to throw it out because of the other value, or what are your thoughts on him?
Initial thought is it feels very bad to play him, right? When he's been on the field and he was running routes early in the season, he wasn't being targeted. And we have so much other value. I would rather not use a tight end spot. When we have decent tight ends on the slate, right? We have Kelsey, Waller, Kittle, Goddard. Like, it just feels so bad to play Hooper here. So I think unless you're making a bunch of lineups, and even then, if Hooper beats me, let it be, right? This is a type of stance I'm okay taking.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're picking between Hooper and one other value. There's like, you just named like 8 other guys. So, and like we said, he's popular. So if he's optimal, like you're just going to be up against a bunch of people that have, weird combination stuff. Yeah, I have him in right now. I was debating taking him out. I might just do it. It just feels gross.
Here's the thing, dude. Like, even if he scores 15, and I don't think he will, your values can still outscore that. There are some slates where if a value scores 15, you have no chance at all. But here, that's not the case. You have tons of bullets to outscore 15 points from Austin Hooper, and that's like absolute maximum ceiling, and he's 20% owned.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. It's a great way to put it. Yeah, all right. Let's keep rolling if we got more questions.
All right, let's see. Joseph says, so who is your favorite stack? I think you and I both identified the Baltimore stack as a key one. on both sites, but does that differ from who your favorite stack might be?
I mean, I think honestly, Philly. I just it seems like a get right game for them. Giants defense is very bad. They've looked better in some weird games lately. AJ Brown, underperforming wide receiver, way too low owned for 20% is just kind of nuts.
Yes.
And we have really cheap bringbacks that we know are going to play, right, the receiver. So I really like that one. And Hurts probably should be more owned than like whatever 25% that he is. So, but I think Baltimore is very good. But I think Philly was my top one.
Yeah, I agree. Mike says, "Are you staying away from any game completely?" So, Jack, you and I know you're mass multi-entering. I'm playing a good handful of small field lineups. I won't be full fading any game completely. I think all three games have enough pieces that I don't know if it makes a bunch of sense outside of a single entry to fade just one game.
Oh, I agree. They all look fine. We have good low owned value in every game. So that's the key.
Agree. Antoine says Bateman is being severely glossed over. He has 15 targets the past 3 weeks. Yes, just another selling point for the Baltimore stack. Another selling point for a cheap, low-owned receiver instead of a popular punt tight end. I mean, Jack, there's so many different ways to play that Baltimore game.
There are, yeah. It's almost. I'm guessing it was almost hard for you to make the lineups. There's just too many ways to play that game. Let's talk about San Francisco for a moment. They're obviously very tough four-man stack with their expensive funneled players. Do you have any interest in doing that, or do you think just relying on a three stack Purdy and relying on our lower owned Baltimore value is enough for that game?
Yeah, I mean, as you get to 3 game and 4 game, you're starting to look a little more at just the 3-man stacks instead of the 4-man stacks. But you and I were talking this morning because, as we both identified, we are degenerates, and we were talking about mega stacking at 9 a.m. on Christmas Day. But some of these teams, like Philadelphia, like San Francisco, they aren't really ripe for mega stacking because they funnel the targets to just a select few, right? Some of these other teams, there's so many tertiary wide receivers, backup running backs, backup tight ends that get in the mix. But Philly, it's just going to AJB, Smith, and Goddard. On San Francisco, it's just going to Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle. And it feels really bad to play like a 1% Ronnie Bell, a 1% Quez Watkins, whoever else, when you could play a 5% guy who's a wide receiver 2 or even a wide receiver 1 in some senses on this slate.
Yeah, totally agree with you. And again, the reason we super stack is not necessarily because you have to, right? It's like Brian said, the 3 ways to get unique. And we're just pointing out that on this slate, you don't necessarily have to use that as much as a way to get unique because we have such awesome low owned value plays.
Exactly. Let's reiterate this for people who missed the beginning. Keto Rising says, is it Zamir White day? And you and I both agree that he will be over-owned based on his recent performance with Jacobs out of the lineup. But this likely game script where he's not going to play passing downs more than likely. And if this game goes as the betting markets indicate, he could game script it out very quickly and bust at his ownership.
Yeah, I think the way to think about it, right, is the field is guessing, and they're guessing too much that it's Zamir White. It could be, but the ownership suggests that there's like a 95% chance that White is the correct guy, and we're pointing out it's probably closer to 50-50 and maybe even a slight edge to Abdullah given the pass catching role and the likely trailing game script. So it just makes sense to over leverage yourself on Abdullah. And I did play White, but I'm under, and if he's optimal, I probably won't win, but I'm willing to take that risk based on what we know. So
Exactly. All right, let's get to these final questions. 5 minutes. If you guys have any final questions, we're going to get out of here, finish our lineups, go enjoy Christmas with our families. Again, rapid fire, Jack. No need for extensive explanations here. Do 2 low-owned salary running backs win these types of slates? Like if you played Justice Hill and Amir Abdullah together? I will say we have seen it before, but thoughts on playing 2 of those in the same lineup?
I didn't allow them just because I figure they're not going to have enough upside. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't throw away two running backs in general. However, I'm looking at it. I don't think I allowed any today. I'm curious. Is that something you would have allowed today, or in what situations would you?
It seems kind of bad on a 3-game slate, right? When you have these other running backs, I think I would max one of these cheaper low-owned backup running backs or like situational role running backs.
Yeah, I think I set out thinking I might allow it, and then I eventually just blocked all of it. So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay, favorite play under 4K for large field DraftKings GPP.
All right, let's sort by salary here. Jalen Hyatt's under 4K. I'm gonna go Jalen Hyatt.
All right, good answer. Would you stack Mahomes with Pacheco or fade him in that stack? I would say only if you're 4-man stacking KC would I include Pacheco in a Mahomes stack. Do you disagree?
No, I actually let me look at my KC lineup. I think I did not use him because yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I think as a fourth, it's fine. I guess. What do you think about the no McKinnon? What do you see the splits coming out with that?
Yeah, so when McKinnon last missed, Pacheco had a massive role, and that's the reason I would include him in those stacks. Greens in the past game, CEH was just a situational player and literally gave him a breather. So yeah, I think you can include him for that reason alone because McKinnon is out. All right, let's get to these final ones. Londo says CMC is a great play, so thank you, Londo, for the most obvious comment in YouTube history. Eli says, how do you feel about a heavy Raiders showdown lineup today for large field GPPs? So showdown, Raiders heavy. We know the field is going to build Kansas City heavy. Can Vegas heavy showdown lineup get there?
That's tough, probably. So I think Adams and Myers are. I mean, we haven't talked about them. They're low owned. They're expensive. It's a tough matchup. I guess we'll start there. Like, are you interested in playing those guys, say in small field, or being over the field in MME, or is it just kind of an eat, or just take a stand and say they're not going to get there?
I would probably eat it and try to get different elsewhere. So, I mean, I think a Raiders heavy lineup is pretty tough to get to in Showdown. But we won't spend too much time on that just because this is mostly the classic video. Londo says thoughts on low and Justin Watson. We like him. Likely more routes today. We didn't talk about defenses yet. Junior says, are you okay with the Baltimore or Vegas defense? Jack, the Chiefs and the Eagles will be the most popular defenses. As we know on short slates, anything can happen with defenses. So I assume that you're okay with any defense today.
Yeah, I played all of them. I think you can even allow like a pass catcher against the defense. For example, we saw like Pittsburgh defense was optimal in that 2-gamer, and T. Higgins scored like 30 points, right? So that kind of thing is fine. I will say back to the other question though, Devontae Adams is definitely the kind of player we talk about in that like 10 to 15% owned range that they could just immediately destroy the slate. It's like in the first hour of the day, you're like, oh, he's not in my lineup, so I'm dead. So yeah, those are I would find him somewhere probably. Would I super stack the game? Probably not on the Raiders side at least.
That was also known as the Amari Cooper theory, based on
my day was done early yesterday from that as well, as I'm sure many of you guys were.
Exactly. Let me see. Any final questions? We had multiple questions about this double tight end slate. Are you allowing 2 tight ends? I think you can with the quality of tight ends on this slate.
Yeah. I do it even with bad tight ends on the short ones, but especially today. These guys are great. It's like the best tight end pool we've ever seen, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty. I mean, considering that one where we were hoping anyone would get 3 points, this is a much better.
Yeah, the worst one on this slate besides Hooper is better than all the ones on the previous one.
Yes, dude. Yes. All right, let's close out the show with. I know there's some questions we didn't get to, and I'll try to get to them if I can. But Chris says thoughts on CMC late swap. Have to leave room to try to fit him in. Maybe swap off or onto him depending on the early game results. Let's finalize this video by talking about late swap today because we have 2 clear windows between 1 and 4, between 4 and 8 to make changes to our lineups.
Yeah, so just to recap the usual thing, right? You try to look at your minutes remaining and how far up the leaderboard you are. Actually, I have a question on that. So FanDuel, you can see anywhere on the leaderboard, and I can literally see, but DraftKings, can you do that unless you're in the top 500, or does it not even let you?
You have to download the CSV.
Okay, there it is. So I haven't been playing much MME DraftKings where I need to do it, but I did one the other day. And okay, so got it. So that's how you have to do it. That's a true grind.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, late swap is extra important today. Reek in the chat says thoughts about being light on the earlier games to mainly focus on late swapping in small fields. That's an interesting strategy, right? The more information you have, the better. I don't know if I have a stance, Jack, on whether just to fade the early games because there could be guys that you need in your lineup. So I wouldn't necessarily look at it that way. Just make sure you are available to late swap.
Yep, I agree with you.
Final question from Victor. Who is the George Pickens of the day, since we called that so beautifully on Saturday? On the count of 3, are we both going to say A.J. Brown? Is that it, Jack?
Yeah, we got. I mean, Beckham is there too, right? But yeah, AJ Brown. I hope it's AJ Brown because he's going to be pretty low owned and just could nuke the slate. And yeah. Hopefully, Merry Christmas present to us.
Yeah, so AJ Brown and Odell Beckham are the underperforming wide receivers of the day. It is 12:01. I am just going to rapid fire answer these questions that we didn't get to, just to save time. Which game has a better chance of blowing out, Kansas City or Philly? I will say Philly. Would you 4-2 Lamar with McCaffrey and Ravens D? Sure. Is Kittle a one-off okay? Yes. Tips for captain mode for Ravens game? Anything stand out? Yes. We like all the Ravens pass catchers. Odell is an underperforming wide receiver. Consider him at captain. JP says, could Myers be that guy over Adams? Sure. And is Bell viable with Jennings out? Yes, he's the type of guy that we're not super interested in today's slate because we have other low-owned guys to play. But yes, Ronnie Bell should be the wide receiver 3 for San Francisco. What do you guys think about Brandon Ayuk? He's a great receiver and a great player on this slate. How high in a large field tourney would you need to be to not late swap? You could be in second place, first place, and still late swap if you're blocking, or it depends on how owned your plays have done and what ownership you have left. That's what it comes down to. All right, guys, that'll do it. Jack, thanks for joining me, man. Merry Christmas to you and yours, everyone out there. Merry Christmas to you as well. If you don't celebrate, happy Chinese and Thai food day, as I know many of you also celebrate that as well. And if you don't celebrate either of the things, happy 3-game NFL slate on a random Monday. So for Jack at DFS Magic, I'm Brian from Occupy Fantasy. Thank you guys for listening so much. We appreciate you more than you know throughout the entire season. And good luck today.